Tonight, let us step into a gentler way of seeing, not as students at a lecture, but as companions on a quiet path where thought softens and the heart listens. We are guided by Socrates, not as a stern examiner, but as a lantern-bearer in the dusk, showing us how to move through uncertainty with dignity and warmth. What we meet here is not a doctrine and not a demand. It is an invitation to explore, to question, and to find the wisdom that is already resting inside us, like a shoreline hidden beneath the tide. Our method will be simple and human. Stories, gentle insights, and small contemplative questions that speak to the quiet, curious part of the mind. We will not rush. We will walk slowly. And where the mind tightens, we will breathe. The promise of this journey is subtle yet profound, to shift from the chaos of doubt to a clear and open peace, the kind that comes when we stop pretending to know and start listening for what is true. This is SleepyPhilosopher, a sanctuary for the mind. You do not have to achieve anything here. There is nothing to fix. Only a soft place to rest while ideas move like a quiet river around you. If you feel a resonance with this path of reflection, you are gently invited to subscribe, and if it feels nice, share where you are listening from and what time it is for you. Let us take a first slow breath together, letting the shoulders fall and the jaw unclench. And now we begin. The first step on our path is this. True wisdom starts by acknowledging how little we actually know. Socrates walked into the unknown not as an enemy to conquer, but as a companion to meet. He asked questions as one might light small lamps along a dark corridor, each answer revealing another doorway to explore. The story goes that a dear friend, Karefin, once visited the oracle at Delphi and returned with a startling message. No one was wiser than Socrates. Puzzled rather than proud, Socrates set out to test this, asking those reputed to be wise what they truly knew, gently probing through a method the Greeks called elenchus, a careful cross-examination that tested beliefs for coherence. He discovered that many were confident, but their confidence did not always rest on truth. Socrates, by contrast, found an honest steadiness in saying, "I do not know," and from there he could inquire. Years later, as Plato records in the Apology, Socrates stood at his trial in 399 BC and spoke of this very mission, explaining that any wisdom he possessed was bound to the humble recognition of his own ignorance. In that humility, a door opened, one that leads not to embarrassment but to freedom. And so this ancient wisdom finds its echo in our own lives. We live among infinite choices, devices glowing, opinions streaming, paths multiplying like city lights at night. It is easy to think we must know immediately which job to take, which plan to follow, how to respond to every headline and every message. But the Socratic way invites a softer posture. Instead of forcing certainty, we can ask a kind question of ourselves. What do I truly know for sure in this moment, and what am I simply assuming? We can test our beliefs as Socrates did, not to win arguments, but to loosen the knots inside. What matters most right now? Which outcomes lie beyond my control? Where might a single honest, I don't know, create more space to breathe? Like turning down the volume in a crowded room, this gentle inquiry makes space for calm attention, for kinder choices, for a quieter heart. As you settle more deeply, perhaps place your uncertainties on an imaginary table before you. Let them rest there without fixing them, like pebbles waiting by a river. Breathe in softly, acknowledging the unknown. Breathe out slowly, releasing the need to solve it all tonight. If you like, hold this question lightly as a companion. What uncertainties can I embrace today with curiosity rather than fear? Allow this thought to sit quietly with you as the body becomes heavier, the mind more spacious, and the night more forgiving. Each gentle I don't know is a clearing in the forest where new paths can appear. For now it is enough to walk by lamplight, one calm step at a time. We continue from where we left the shoreline of unknowing and take our next step gently. For Socrates, the journey of asking questions was itself a place to stand, a kind of quiet certainty found not at the end, but within the walk. Rather than clutching an answer, he trusted the rhythm of inquiry, the steady pulse of a mind willing to see again. Imagine setting a small compass on a table. The needle quivers, then finds north, not by force but by alignment. Socratic inquiry is that alignment. It steadies us while we move. We began with humility, I do not know, and now we discover that this humility becomes our reliable direction. Let us take a soft breath here, feeling the breath move in and out as a quiet guide. When we lean into the question with patience, we notice a different kind of certainty emerging, the assurance that we are examining with care, that we are not rushing past our own life. This is a certainty of method, of presence, of honest attention. And it is surprisingly restful, like recognizing the familiar constellation above the night road. We still travel, but we are not lost. There is an old Athenian morning I like to imagine. The market stirring, shutters opening, the scent of olive wood smoke in the air. A younger Socrates pauses beside a potter's wheel, the clay turning in a slow circle. He admires a cup and asks, almost casually, what makes it good? The potter answers, it holds well, it pours cleanly. Socrates nods, then wonders, is goodness only usefulness, or is there a shape that feels true even before we drink? The questions braid together, and the potter, hands glossed with slip, begins to notice edges, balances, and proportions he had felt but never named. Nothing dramatic is decided, no trumpet of certainty, yet something settles, the attention itself grows precise. Many years later, Plato would set this spirit to page in the Theaetetus, an early middle 4th century BCE dialogue where Socrates and a young mathematician test what knowledge might be, perception, true judgment, and true judgment with an account, and still arrive at aporia, a thoughtful impasse. But even without a final definition, the mind is sharpened, like a blade drawn gently along a whetstone. The certainty is in the way we are learning to see. And so, this ancient rhythm finds its echo in our own lives, where screens glitter and answers arrive before the question has had time to breathe. We scroll, we search, we crave the closure of a tidy conclusion. Yet a firmer peace may appear when we practice better questions. Instead of asking, "Am I right?" we might ask, "What am I not seeing?" Instead of, "How do I win this argument?" perhaps, "What would change my mind?" Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" we could try, "What is the smallest piece of this I truly understand?" These questions do not end the search. They sweeten it, calm it, and orient it like quietly turning toward the wind to feel its direction on the skin. Let us take another soft breath, in and out, letting the mind unclench just a little. With each kinder, clearer question, we rediscover the present as a place of learning, not a courtroom for verdicts. Before we drift further, we can try a simple practice. Bring to mind one corner of your life that feels tangled: work, a relationship, a choice not yet made. Now whisper inwardly, "How could I ask a better question here?" Notice what arises when you soften the phrasing. What matters most truly? Or what evidence would I welcome even if it surprises me? Imagine placing this question in your palm like a small seashell. Hold it to your inner ear and listen for its gentle hum. No rush to answer. Let your shoulders fall, your jaw loosen, and your breath widen around the unknown. Perhaps we can carry one living question into sleep tonight. How can I ask better questions about my life? Allow this thought to sit quietly with you, like a friendly star visible through a thin cloud, steady enough to guide, soft enough to soothe. As we arrive at this third step in our quiet walk with Socrates, we turn toward a simple, luminous orientation. To live awake is to live examined, not as harsh scrutiny, but as a soft candle held to the corners of the mind. He once told us in words preserved across centuries that a life left unobserved drifts from itself. And so we begin with a tender vow. Today we watch with kindness. The ancients placed a reminder where pilgrims gathered at Delphi. Know thyself, not thy suiton, engraved at the temple of Apollo. It is less a command than a gentle note tucked under the door of our attention. We do not force it open, we simply notice the music inside. We've already learned to say, "I do not know," and to stand in that freedom. Now we add a friendly listening to our own thoughts, a tuning of the inner lyre until the string rests true. Take a soft breath here. Feel the air arrive and go. If the unexamined life is a room with curtains drawn, then this moment is the quiet hand that pulls them open by a finger's width. We are not searching for grand revelations, we are adjusting the light. Little by little we awaken the philosopher within, the one who sits near the heart, asking gently and receiving what appears. There is a story, familiar yet ever new, that hums beneath Socrates' days. His friend Carafin once came back from Delphi with a riddle. That none was wiser than Socrates. We have heard this reported already, and still listen to what followed. Disturbed by the claim, Socrates decided not to bow before it, but to examine it. He walked among the people of Athens, statesmen whose robes carried the dust of courts, poets whose verses fluttered like birds, and craftsmen whose hands knew wood and bronze. With the gentle pressure of questions, he invited each to show the shape of what they knew. and as answers met answers, certainties began to loosen, as if a knot quietly learning how to untie itself. In that unraveling, he discovered something small and steady. He did not possess their knowledge, and yet, unlike many, he did not pretend to. This, he thought, might be the oracle's meaning. In Plato's Apology, he calls it the human wisdom, knowing that one does not know. And over all of this, the old Delphic words still glowed. Know thyself, the temple's maxim whispered in stone. Not the self as a fortress, but the self as a question asked with care. Socrates' dialogue with the oracle was never a private audience with a god. It unfolded across conversations in sunlit streets, where each answer became another doorway. And so, this ancient pattern finds its echo in our own time. The agora has become a glowing screen. The chorus of voices now arrives as notifications. We consult our devices as Athenians once consulted rumor and reputation, and in the bright weather of constant opinion, our inner voice can grow faint. But like Socrates, we need not flee the crowd. We can simply ask better questions in the midst of it. When the feed scrolls without end, we can pause and ask softly, what is really guiding me in this moment? When a message tugs at the thread of your attention, let a breath arrive and go, and then try, what am I assuming right now? The world will still hum around you, the errands and deadlines will not vanish. Yet inquiry can be a small clay cup of clear water offered to a thirsty mind. Even in a crowded day, a single honest question can settle like ink in a bowl, swirling, then clarifying. And if the noise grows loud, recall that wisdom does not shout. It leans forward, listens, and asks the next simple thing. This is how the inner philosopher wakes, without drama, with steady curiosity. So let us practice now, as evening or night folds gently around you. Place attention where breath meets the body. Inhale softly. Exhale even softer. Then ask in your own words, a quiet compass for the hours ahead. What simple question could guide my day? Perhaps it is, what is the kindest next step? Or, what matters most right now? Or, what would I be glad to have done when this day is done? Do not strain for the perfect phrase. Let one arrive like a small bird alighting on your open palm. When it comes, tuck it into your awareness as you would slip a smooth stone into a pocket. Each time distraction calls, touch it lightly in your mind. Let it keep you close to yourself. In this way, we honor the Delphic whisper without ceremony, examining life one tender question at a time. May your inner philosopher sit beside you like a patient friend, and may your simple question light the path just a few steps ahead. We continue onward, gently, with curiosity as our constant companion. Our journey has been learning to stand gently in the open space of not knowing, and tonight we place that space in our hands as our first key, the power of unknowing itself. To acknowledge that we do not know is not a defeat but a clearing, like mist lifting from a valley so the hills can appear. When we say softly, I do not know, we empty a cup so it can be filled. We loosen the knot so the rope can move. Socrates suggested that the beginning of wisdom is this honest recognition of our limits, because only what is open can receive. Together, we treat unknowing not as a hole to be patched, but as a quiet doorway. As we step through, feel your shoulders ease and your breath lengthen, as though a window has been opened in a warm room. Let us take a soft breath here, in through the nose, and out slow and unforced. Unknowing is the ground on which learning grows, the clear soil where new roots can take hold. And we will see how this key becomes a companion wherever we walk. In the story Socrates tells at his trial, he stands before the jurors of Athens and describes what he discovered when he sought out those reputed to be wise. He visited them, listened, and gently questioned politicians, poets, craftsmen, finding a pattern. Many claimed knowledge beyond what they truly grasped. And then, with a quiet clarity that still rings across centuries, he offers a small but radical difference. In Plato's Apology at 21d, he says, "I neither know nor think I know." He is not performing humility, he is describing a stance. He would rather stand on clear ground than on fog that only feels solid. Imagine the room, dust drifting in a shaft of daylight, the murmur of the crowd settling as his simple words land. I neither know nor think I know. In that sentence, a door opens, not to certainty, but to a trustworthy way of walking. He shows us that unknowing held honestly becomes an instrument sharper than pride, a clean blade cutting through pretense so that real learning can begin. And so, this ancient wisdom finds its echo in our own lives, where overinformation often masquerades as knowledge. We carry pocket-sized libraries, a cascade of headlines, threads, and summaries, and the nearness of facts can be mistaken for understanding. The mind, dazzled by glittering fragments, begins to feel full, yet not nourished. Socratic unknowing invites a gentler rhythm, to set the phone down like a warm stone, to notice the quiet difference between having access and having insight. It asks us to become artisans of attention, to trade the rush of instant certainty for the slow sweetness of seeing clearly. With each small admission, I do not yet see this, I am not sure, I need to ask a better question. We create room for understanding to grow, the way a gardener clears space so light can reach a hidden seed. In this way, unknowing is not emptiness. It is the deliberate space that allows something real to take root. Let us turn this into a simple practice. If you like, place a hand over your chest and soften your jaw. Take a gentle breath in and a longer breath out. Now ask quietly, how can I stay curious despite having no answers? Allow the question to rest in you, like a pebble settling to the bottom of a clear bowl. Notice how the mind reaches to fill the space. Smile at that reaching and let it relax. Bring to mind one topic today where you felt very sure, just one. Whisper inwardly, what small detail might I be missing? What fresh angle would let me see more? Then breathe and make a soft promise to yourself. I will keep a little room for surprise. As you drift toward rest, hold Socrates' quiet line near you, not as a slogan, but as a posture of the heart. I neither know nor think I know. Let this stance lighten your steps and soften your thoughts, so that in the gentle dark, learning begins again, calmly, from the honest brightness of unknowing. As our quiet path deepens, we turn to a tender claim that glows at the heart of Socrates' teaching. Virtue is a kind of knowing. Not a harsh rule, not a badge to wear, but a clarity that steadies the hands and softens the voice. Earlier, we practiced standing honestly with what we do not know, letting that humility open a clear space within. Now we ask, when understanding ripens in that space, what shape does a good life take? Socrates suggests something simple and radical. If we truly know what is good, we are drawn to do it, as surely as a plant leans to the sun. When we miss the mark, it is not because evil dazzles us, but because we are confused, mistaken, or asleep. Knowledge, in this sense, is not mere information stacked like books on a shelf. It is a living comprehension that guides our steps. We touched before on how knowledge becomes steady when given an account, when it can be spoken, tested, and lived. Tonight we let this understanding settle like a small lamp in a quiet room, its light reaching naturally to where our actions dwell. Let us take a soft breath together, and another gentle and unhurried. In this ease we begin. There is a scene in an Athenian courtyard, warm with dust and afternoon light. A visitor from Thessaly named Meno asks Socrates, "Can virtue be taught?" Socrates answers with his familiar kindness, that before we decide how to acquire it, we must learn what it is. Meno tries to list many virtues of men, of women, of citizens, but Socrates gently invites a single thread that weaves them all. When Meno protests, "How can we search for what we do not know?" Socrates kneels and traces lines in the dust, asking a young household boy about a square. "Can we make a square twice as large?" The boy answers confidently, then discovers his mistake, and with gentle questions finds his way, not by being told, but by seeing. Socrates calls this recollection, suggesting that learning can be a waking, a remembering of what the mind can recognize when guided with care. They return to virtue and meet a respected citizen, Anytus, who bristles at the suggestion that few can teach what is truly good. By the end, Socrates offers a subtle image. True opinions can guide us for a time, but they tend to wander off. Knowledge is opinion tethered by an account, like the statues of Daedalus that stay put only when tied. If virtue is teachable, there must be teachers. If not, perhaps it comes as right guidance that needs to be bound, made steady, by understanding. In that courtyard, the dust holds the geometry of a square, and the air holds the question of a life. And so, this ancient conversation finds its echo in our own days. We often divide our lives, knowledge over here, degrees, data, cleverness, and ethics over there, as if kindness were an optional add-on. Socrates would smile, I think, and ask whether we truly know a thing that does not change how we live. A head full of facts may dazzle, but if it does not touch the posture of the heart, it is closer to wandering opinion than anchored understanding. Consider the small crossings of an ordinary day, the moment you could answer sharply, but pause and let your words arrive soft and clear. The quiet decision to close a screen and step into fresh air. The choice to tell the truth, even when a quick excuse waits at the door. These are places where knowing the good can be felt, not as a rule imposed, but as a gentle gravity. Earlier we learned that knowledge becomes steady when it can be given an account. Perhaps the truest account is the one our actions offer back to us, day after day. What we really understand tends to show up in how we move, how we listen, how we return after we've stumbled. In this way, virtue is not a stiff posture. It is a rhythm, a way the inner and outer fall into step. Breathe here softly. Let the breath be your quiet teacher, so we might hold a simple question at the edge of sleep. When do I feel most virtuous? Not perfect, just aligned, as if the mind, the heart, and the hands were moving together. Let a small memory arise, a time you acted with clarity and kindness, even in a small way. Notice what you truly knew in that moment. Perhaps you knew the worth of a person before you, or the cost of a careless word, or the relief that honesty brings. What made that knowing steady? What tethered it so it did not wander? Was it a breath, a habit you've been cultivating, the presence of someone you trust? Allow this thought to sit quietly with you. Tomorrow, choose one small place where your knowing can become doing. A single kindness, a measured reply, a promise you keep even when unseen. Lay this question beside you like a smooth stone on the night table. When do I feel most virtuous? Let it keep you company as you drift, and let it remember you to yourself when you wake. A soft breath in. A softer breath out. We continue together, gently, in the light of what we are learning. We have walked together through uncertainty, honest unknowing, and the gentle craft of clear questions. Now we arrive at a simple practice with profound depth, living the examined life. To live fully, Socrates did not wait for rare moments of insight. He examined his life continually, like a musician who tunes the lyre before every song so that each note rings true. Examination here is not self-judgment. It is a soft, steady attention, a willingness to look again, to notice what moves us and why. We have already seen how certainty can be a way of standing, anchored in presence and honest method. The examined life is that stance lived day by day, a practice of asking, of listening, and of letting our actions be aligned with what we truly see. Let us take a gentle breath together, as if clearing a small window in a quiet room. In and out. And with that, we step further in. Imagine an evening gathering in ancient Athens, cushions on the floor, low lamps casting warm circles on the walls. In Plato's Symposium, friends speak in turn about love, offering polished speeches. When Socrates speaks, he does not boast. He credits a teacher, Diotima of Mantinea, whose wisdom he passes on. She teaches of an ascent, beginning with the beauty of a single face, widening to the beauty of character, of practices, of knowledge, and finally toward beauty itself, the source from which particular beauties shine. In this telling, love becomes our guide to awaken and refine perception. And Socrates models something quiet and radical. The examined life is humble enough to learn, to attribute its light to the lamp that lit it. Even the setting, a symposium of shared words, suggests that examination is not only a private inward act, but a living conversation with others, with the world, with what calls us to be more truthful and more kind. And so this ancient scene finds its echo in our own lives. Our days can move quickly, calendars layered over messages, small decisions stacking like stones until we cannot see the garden beneath. Often pace obscures perception. We act by momentum, not by insight. To live examined does not require hours or monasteries. It asks for small thresholds. Before opening the laptop, one breath. What am I bringing to this task? Impatience, care, fear, curiosity. Before a conversation, a quiet check. What do I hope for here, and what am I prepared to hear? At the end of the day, a soft light held up to habit. Did my actions align with what I say I value? These are simple doorways. We walked earlier with honest unknowing. Now we let that honesty guide a rhythm of looking, questioning, and gently adjusting, the way a sailor trims a small sail to keep the boat true to the wind. Perhaps we try a practice now. Let your hands loosen. Let the breath come and go, easy and unforced. Ask quietly, what aspects of my life go unexamined? You might bring to mind one thread, an automatic habit, a belief about yourself, a way you spend time, a recurring feeling that visits like weather. Without blame, look at it as you would a handwritten note from a friend. What is it trying to do for you? How did it begin? What would kinder clarity look like here, tomorrow? Allow these questions to rest beside you, like a small candle you need not hold. If it helps, choose one sentence to carry into the next day, one vow of gentle attention. I will look at this with patience and act from what I truly see. Let that intention settle into the body, light and calm. And as we continue, remember Socrates at the banquet, offering not a victory speech but a pathway taught by another. A reminder that living the examined life is a shared art, refined breath by breath, question by question, until what we do and what we value move as one. We have been walking the examined path together, noticing how honest questions clear the air around us. Tonight, we turn to something quietly radical within Socratic ethics, the power of simplicity. Not a harsh austerity, but a gentle pruning that brings the soul into clearer light. In Socrates' way, goodness is not hidden behind complex systems or grand theories. It appears when our life becomes simple enough for truth to be felt directly. We set down what is heavy, and the inner compass is easier to read. We lean toward what steadies us, clarity, humility, and care for the soul, while letting the rest fall away like loose threads. Picture an Athenian morning, the marketplace stirring awake. The stalls are bright with textiles, trinkets, clay lamps, and figs. The air smells faintly of olives and dust. Socrates pauses at the edge of the bustle, his cloak plain, his sandals perhaps absent, as stories often tell. He wanders slowly, not to purchase, but to look, with the same curiosity he brings to a thought. Later tradition says he would gaze at the goods and smile, how many things I can do without. It isn't disdain for the world, it is a kind of delighted relief, as if quietly recognizing that sufficiency is already in his hands. In Plato's Symposium, Alcibiades paints another image of this simplicity. Socrates in the cold campaign at Potidaea, enduring frost and hardship with an ease that startled hardened soldiers. The story is less about heroics and more about inner alignment. When the heart is clear about what it serves, excess falls away. Xenophon, too, speaks of Socrates' moderation and endurance, a life level and steady like a calm horizon. Simplicity here is not deprivation. It is a quiet joy in needing little to live well. And so this ancient posture finds its echo in our own lives. Our days can feel woven with many bright threads, notifications, obligations, comparisons, and the soft hum of more. We tell ourselves that peace is one purchase away, one app away, one achievement away. Yet Socratic ethics suggests a humbler experiment. What if peace is underneath, already present, revealed by removing what is non-essential? Like clearing a small corner of a crowded desk and suddenly seeing the important page beneath, we notice that a simple life is an ethical life because it frees attention to care for what truly matters. When we are less scattered, we can listen more closely. When we are less hurried, we can be kinder. When we need less, we harm less. Perhaps the Socratic question is not, what should I add to be good, but what can I release so goodness has room to breathe? Let us take a soft breath here. Notice the simple rise of the chest, the gentle fall. In this breath is a complete practice. It arrives, it leaves, and there is nothing to acquire. We might imagine our inner life as a quiet courtyard. When it is cluttered, we pace restlessly. When it is clear, a single candle is enough to light the space. Socratic simplicity is that clearing. It is the small, steady choice to keep our lamp easy to carry. One conversation that truly matters over many that leave us hollow. One promise kept rather than 5 half-fulfilled. One honest question listened to fully instead of 10 answers tossed into the wind. And when we falter, we return to the breath, again and again, the simplest teacher. Consider how this might unfold tomorrow. Could we simplify a morning, choosing one nourishing ritual rather than 3? Perhaps a quiet cup of tea by the window, a moment with the sky before screens, a single line in a notebook. What is the good I will serve today? Could we simplify our attention, closing the extra tabs in mind and browser, walking a little slower between rooms? Could we simplify our speech, saying what is true and kind, and letting silence do its work where words might tangle. These are not grand reforms. They are the gentle alignment of means with ends. Socrates teaches not by building a tower of concepts, but by standing on the earth with bare feet, feeling what is solid. Let us try a tiny exercise together. Bring to mind one area of life that feels crowded. It could be a drawer, a calendar square, a small corner of thought where the same worry loops. Now imagine removing a single item from that space. Permission to place it down just for tonight. Notice how even a little space changes the air. Imagine a bell sounding softly there, as if clarity itself makes music. Another breath. In this opening, the ethical life feels less like a set of rules and more like a path you can actually walk. Fewer steps, more care. Less armor, more presence. Socrates valued simplicity because it protected what he cherished most, the freedom to seek the good without distraction. When we simplify, we make the same vow in miniature. We choose clarity over clamor, humility over display, sufficiency over appetite. And from this ground our earlier practices deepen. The honest "I do not know" lands more gently, our questions grow patient, our attention becomes a soft, steady flame. If you like, place a hand over your heart. Feel the steady rhythm there, simple and faithful. Let the question rest in that rhythm. How might I simplify to find more peace? There is no rush for an answer. Allow the question to keep you company, like a quiet friend walking beside you. As we drift toward sleep, may we feel the lightness of needing less and the spaciousness it gives the soul. And in the morning, perhaps we will discover that the lamp we carry, because it is simple, shines a little farther along our path. Tonight we lean into a paradox that has been quietly guiding our steps all along: wise ignorance. Not the fog of confusion, but the clarity that admits its edges. Socrates showed us that a mind at peace does not pretend to know. It listens, it inquires, and it relaxes its grip on certainty. In our earlier journey, we learned to stand upon the shoreline of unknowing, to let the tide of questions reveal firm sand beneath our feet. Now we learn to walk here with ease. Wise ignorance is not passivity, it is embodied attention. It is the way the shoulders soften when we say, "I don't know yet," and the way the breath lengthens when we allow a possibility we hadn't seen. It is a way of moving through the world, of meeting others, of stepping into conversations not as a warrior to win, but as a gardener to tend. When we embody this, a surprising outcome often appears: peace. Not the brittle quiet of forced agreement, but the living calm that follows honest recognition of limits. Let us take a soft breath here and feel how even the smallest admission, "I may not know," loosens the knots within. In Xenophon's Memorabilia, we glimpse Socrates in practical conversations, not just lofty debates. The philosopher among neighbors and friends. Imagine then an evening in Athens, market stalls dimming, lamp oil catching a warm flame. Two neighbors at the edge of a shared well, voices tightened by a long drought and longer assumptions. Socrates arrives not to arbitrate, but to ask. He listens to their words and to their tone, then asks a small, disarming question: what would enough look like for each of you? The first speaks of his thirsty trees, the second of his sick child. Socrates nods and continues, "Tell me one thing you do not yet know about the other's need." The men falter. One admits he does not know the child's condition. The other admits he does not know how many trees truly need watering. In that shared admission, the tension thins like mist. They begin to piece together a schedule: more water in the early night for the child, more in the dawn for the trees. No grand theory is won. And yet something precious emerges: reconciliation. Socrates offers no verdict, only companionship in inquiry. And the peace that follows when we bravely name what we do not know. The lamps recede, the voices soften. There is space enough for everyone to breathe. And so this ancient wisdom finds its echo in our own lives. In the meeting that drifts toward argument. In the family dinner that tightens around the old knot. In the online thread where heat rises faster than light. We can step in as Socrates did, not with pronouncements but with wise ignorance. We can say, "I may be missing something. What is it?" We can ask, what would enough look like for each of us? We can name one thing we do not yet know about the other's need. And one thing we do not yet know about our own. Feel how the body responds when you shift from certainty to curiosity. The jaw unclenches. The breath loosens. The heart has more room. Peace in this way is not a prize at the end of the debate. It is the tone with which we hold the debate itself. This is how dialogues end not in victory or defeat, but in a quiet, livable compromise. A reconciliation that respects reality's complexity. Here, wise ignorance becomes a practice. Breathe. Admit a limit. Ask a kind question. Listen longer than is comfortable. Over time, this posture steadies the compass of our ethics and softens the air between us. Perhaps we can try it now, gently. Bring to mind a small tension you carry. A conversation that weighed on you. A decision that feels tight. A thread of worry that pulls at the edge of sleep. Let us take a soft breath together. And then ask quietly, what ignorance could I embrace to find peace? Maybe it is the ignorance of another's full story. Maybe it is the ignorance of tomorrow's weather in your life. Maybe it is the ignorance of why your own heart clenches in that familiar way. Allow this question to sit with you without rushing toward an answer. Feel how naming a limit can be a relief. Like setting down a bag you've carried too far. If you wish, whisper to yourself, I do not know enough to be at war. And let your breath become your teacher, flowing in with openness, flowing out with ease. In this way, we embody wise ignorance. We become hospitable to uncertainty. And in that hospitality, peace finds a home. Let us gather the quiet threads of our journey and weave them into something simple we can carry home, a philosophy for serenity. Socrates showed us that calm does not come from clinging to final answers, but from resting in a way of seeing, a way of asking, a way of being present. When the mind learns to soften around uncertainty, to breathe and to inquire gently, peace begins to rise like dawn light along the horizon of thought. We have walked with humility, admitting what we do not know, and found a peculiar steadiness in that honesty. We have practiced attention and learned that certainty can live in the method, in the posture, in the sincerity of our looking. Tonight we let these learnings gather, the kindness of unknowing, the patience of careful questions, the ease of aligning action with what we see to be good. Serenity in this Socratic sense is not an escape from life, but a composure within it, a soft readiness to meet what comes with an open hand and a clear gaze. Imagine an Athenian evening, the air warm and faintly salted from the sea. Oil lamps flicker beneath a colonnade as footsteps hush along stone. A young man approaches Socrates, breath quick with worry about reputation and success. How can I be at peace, he asks, when the city judges and I am not yet what I hope to be? Socrates does not hand him an answer. He invites him to walk. They turn toward the starlit edge of the marketplace, and Socrates asks, almost like a lullaby, what among all these concerns is truly yours to govern? The young man lists the opinions of others, the swells of fortune, the chatter of envy. Socrates listens and then asks again, softer, which of these will move when your heart moves? Which will follow if your understanding clarifies? The young man becomes quieter. They stop beneath a fig tree and the leaves stir. Perhaps, Socrates suggests, your peace does not depend on the crowd's applause, but on whether your actions answer your best question. Later, such conversations were gathered by Xenophon in his Recollections, Memorabilia, likely completed after 371 BC. A book that offers calm, practical portraits of inquiry in motion. In the hush of that imagined night, there is no grand conclusion, only the gentle loosening of a knot. The young man breathes more slowly, his shoulders fall, and a small, steady light appears. Not certainty of outcome, but serenity in the path he can truly walk. And so, this ancient wisdom finds its echo in our own lives. We have screens that glow late and calendars that crowd the hours, yet the same rhythm applies. Breathe, ask, and align. When worry presses in, we can return to the stance we have practiced together. honest about what we do not know, attentive to what is actually here, tender with the next question. The mind often seeks a final verdict, but we have learned the strength of the thoughtful impasse. That place where we pause, gather clarity, and let haste drain away. We have seen that goodness is not distant theory. It is lived knowledge, shown by small choices that match our insight. And we have watched how the attitude of, "I do not know, yet I will ask," dissolves conflict into curiosity, turning sharp edges into meeting places. Serenity grows where inquiry is kind. It grows where our attention is steady, where our questions are sincere, and where we accept that we need not resolve all of life to rest for this moment within it. Let us make this practical as we drift toward rest. Take a soft breath in and let a longer breath out. Now place a single question at the center of your attention, as one would lay a seed into warm soil. What philosophical question soothes my soul? Perhaps it is, what is mine to do here now? Or what good is within reach tonight? Or what am I not seeing that would make this clearer? Choose one that feels kind. Speak it inwardly with no demand for an answer. Let the breath and the question keep each other company. If thoughts wander, gently return to the question, as though turning your face back toward a quiet constellation. Allow this to become your simple philosophy for serenity, a calm breath, an honest question, a willingness to wait. As you rest, trust that clarity ripens in its own season. And if sleep comes, let the question travel with you like a small star over a safe harbor, guiding without urgency, illuminating without glare. What philosophical question soothes your soul? Hold it lightly and let the night answer in silence. As our journey comes to rest, we arrive at a simple, generous truth. Peace is not the end of all questions, but the gentle posture with which we hold them. Socratic wisdom has been teaching us this all along. Freedom begins when we can say, without fear, "I do not know," and feel the soft untying of the mind's knots. Tonight, we let this become not just an idea, but a way of sleeping. The day has spoken loudly enough. Now we practice a quieter form of knowing, the certainty of honest attention, the trust of letting the unsolved remain unsolved until morning. Imagine setting your bundle down at the threshold of night. The bundle is every conclusion you tried to carry, every worry you thought you must hold together. One by one, you place them beside the door. You keep only a small flame of awareness, a steady breath, a patient heart, and the humble sentence that has guided us. I do not know, and I can rest here. Let us take a slow breath in together and a slower breath out. We are not abandoning our questions. We are offering them the kindness of night, where roots grow in the dark and clarity ripens quietly while we sleep. There is a story from Athens that meets us here like a candle in the late hours. In Plato's dialogue Credo, before dawn, Socrates wakes from sleep and tells a friend of a calm dream. A woman in white appears and speaks in verse, foretelling that on the third day he will depart. He does not scramble, panic, or argue with the night. He listens, interprets, and settles, accepting that some tides move by a rhythm deeper than our plans. Picture the stillness of that small cell, the low glow of a brazier, the city beyond breathing in the dark. The dream does what good questions do. It turns the mind from agitation to attentiveness. Socrates has always been a midwife to truth. Even in sleep, the psyche brings him a message not to solve, but to understand, not to master, but to meet. He receives the night as a teacher. And in that receiving there is a serenity, an agreement with reality that asks no apology, requires no noise. And so this ancient scene finds its echo in our rooms tonight. We too have visitors at the threshold, unfinished conversations, emails that multiply like shadows, plans that knock after midnight. The Socratic way does not banish them with force. It simply places each one into true relation, what must be known now. What can be met in the morning sun? Here is a gentle practice as we drift. First, soften the body. Let the forehead smooth, the tongue rest, the shoulders settle back into the mattress as if onto earth itself. Second, name aloud or in thought one thing you do not know tonight, and give it permission to wait. Third, choose one small, honest anchor to keep, a single thread that doesn't strain the mind. This breath is here. I can be kind. I can return. In this, we practice the certainty we have cultivated all along. Not certainty of conclusions, but certainty of method, of returning to attention, of asking sincere questions, of releasing what cannot be carried across the threshold of sleep. So as the room grows quieter and the rhythm of your breath becomes the evening's soft metronome, let us place one last question on the bedside table like a peaceful lamp. What peaceful thought can I carry into sleep? Perhaps it is the simple knowing that you are allowed to rest without completing the puzzle. Perhaps it is gratitude for this one life, arriving and departing with each inhale and exhale. Perhaps it is the humble grace of I do not know, and that is safe. Allow this question to sit beside you, unhurried, as the mind arranges itself the way evening birds arrange their wings before the long glide. If other thoughts come, greet them once, then let them find their own quiet perch. Return to the anchor you chose. Feel the bed holding you, the night holding the bed, and the wide, patient silence holding us all. May you enter sleep the way Socrates received his dream, in trust, in clarity, in gentle companionship with what is real. And may the morning find you renewed, your questions brighter for having